The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're just on our start time. I'm aware that a couple of others are still joining, so we'll start this webinar in around a minute or two. So just bear with us. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this SnapComms webinar, where we're going to look ahead to what we have planned in 2018. I very much thank you for your attendance, and I hope that you'll find what we have to say in both informative and enjoyable. I just want to do some introduction. So my name's Philip Nunn. I'm the General Manager here for SnapComms. Also on the call with me, I have Jane Dupree, who's our Operations Manager, and it'll be Jane that goes through the actual demonstration portion of this particular webinar a little bit later. We also have Janice Little, who is our Customer Success Manager, who some of you may be aware of already, and Janice will be manning the questions. And I would encourage you to ask questions as we go. We'll try and answer them as we go. But before we start, here's just some house rules. We are recording this webinar, and you should receive a copy of that by email tomorrow. And as attendees, you are muted on this particular webinar, but we'd still love to hear any comments or questions you have. So please use the questions feature to reach out to us at any stage. And that's the questions feature rather than the chat, because it's the questions function that we are monitoring. And then to ask a question, just click the orange arrow to expand your GoToWebinar panel, as you can see on the left-hand side here. Then type your question in the appropriate question box, and then Janice should be able to ensure that either she'll be able to answer those questions, or she will store them and we'll get to them at the end of this presentation. Now, I am aware that we have a large number of people on this particular webinar, so it may be that we don't get to all the questions, but if that is the case, then we do keep a copy of each question and who asked that, and we will respond individually or to the group if it's something that is more appropriate to the entire audience. So this session's around about 50 minutes long in total, so there will be some time for questions at the end of the session, and we're always very interested. The product team here is always interested in any feedback you have, as well as requests for future features. So please, I encourage you not to be shy. Okay, so here's our agenda. We've got a lot to get through here, but we're going to look at, first of all, what are the changes that we're making? So what is actually changing in the SnapComms tool, as well as why are we changing it? So it's important to understand why we're making these changes. We'll then give an overview, or I'll give an overview of what those changes are before I hand across to Jane, who will take you through a live demonstration using the content manager of these changes in real time. It's important to understand what are the timeframes, or what's the time frame around we're making these changes. So we'll give some guidance on that following that demonstration. There are some prerequisites that are required to take advantage of some of these new features. So we'll look at what those are at a high level before we look at the next steps. And I will just state here right from the get-go that this is a managed process. So this is a managed migration by SnapComms. So we will guide you through this process. It's not something that we're looking for you guys to go off and do yourselves. There's some complexity around which customers can move across and when, and we'll talk a little bit around that. So it's important that we detail out what those next steps are. And then, as I said, we'll come back for questions at the end of this particular session. So, okay, so what's changing? Well, it's really an across-the-board update to the entire SnapComms solution. It consists of effectively so the items that are listed here. So a new user interface, again, which some of you may already be exposed to, depending on what version of the SnapComms software you're running, if it's local and whether you're on cloud or not. It comprises of a new message creation process. We've updated all of the SnapComms tools. So these are the alerts, the tickers, the quiz survey, screensavers, wallpaper, and newsletter. So they've had a complete update and refresh. We've introduced some new functionality and some new concepts, if you like. You'll hear us talk about themes. So we'll explain what they are as we go through this presentation. And we've obviously tried to increase the functionality and make some general improvements across the board. I've highlighted one here, the autosave, no longer needed to save everything as you go, and I think that everyone's been caught out by that from time to time. And we've also baked in some what we've considered more advanced features previously. So for those of you that are familiar with the quick publish function, you'll now find that that resides within what we call content templates, and that's a standard feature within the product as well. So there is a SnapComms app that will need to be deployed to take advantage of these features, and some of you may be on a version that's able to do that anyway. But it's really if I look at why are we changing, then it really is in response to the feedback that we receive from our customer base. And the overwhelming desire is really for simplification, a much more intuitive environment in which we go create content. So we've tried to make sure that that is the case. So you'll see that the environment that we operate in now is much more easy to use. We appreciate that not everyone uses the product perhaps quite as much as we do here at SnapComms. So coming back to the product after a few days, a few weeks of not using it and so on, it's important that the product is nice and easy to use and that you're able to achieve what you're looking to achieve from the product. We also wanted to give our customers a much greater ability to really tailor messaging as appropriate for that particular message that I send at that particular point in time. So giving you a much greater ability to create and control that look and feel of what a message looks like, and so on, and really understanding how that's going to appear on a user's device, whether that be mobile, whether that be desktop, and so on, is something that we've tried to work through into the product. I'll skip the greater flexibility message creation. I think you'll see that when Jane goes through the demonstration. But the reality is that this message creation process is much more versatile. You're able to do a lot more with it, and we've tried to make usage of the SnapComms tools more efficient in allowing much easier access to some of the more common features that are used within the SnapComms app. So it details here messaging, but also reporting and so on. So being able to get from the SnapComms solution really the areas and the items that you're looking to achieve has been our goal here. And the last item here is really talking about real-time SnapComms application changes. So again, if you might recall, some of you, that to make some what would probably be considered minor changes very often required an uninstall, reprovision, and a reinstall of the SnapComms application. Well, we've tried to address that, and we have now an ability to make real-time changes to the SnapComms application. But that's really a basis for us to move forward, such that requirement to uninstall, reinstall becomes a thing of the past. So you'll see that we can make some changes there as well. So just a high-level overview before Jane goes into the demonstration itself. But the user interface, as I said, we've simplified it. It's a much more modern design. We can create messages much more quickly, and you'll see that as Jane does that, you'll see how quickly it is and how intuitive it is to be able to go create messaging. We give you much easier access to reporting, so you're able to see how successful the message has been in a much more efficient way. It's a very intuitive environment, so we're using simple drag and drop tools. So if you want to drag a text block across, that's nice and easy. If you want to drag an image in, again, nice and easy. If you want to add a picture in, simple, add that in. If you want to resize it, then you drag it to resize and so on. So we find that that's a much easier way and a much more satisfactory way of creating content. The other thing which I think is important here is that we've given you much greater visibility of real-time editing changes. So whereas previously that was sometimes a challenge to understand exactly what this item that you're creating is going to look like on a user screen, you typically have to publish that to yourself to be able to view that. Well, we've got this real-time visibility of those changes that you're making, as well as an enhanced preview, which I'll come on to in a second. And lastly, we know that employees respond much better to visually appealing messaging. So we've added in some animation here, which makes it much more engaging to a recipient in terms of how they receive a message and whether that's appealing to them. The other area which I want to touch on really is the introduction of what we've called themes and branding. So a lot of you guys will already have custom templates. So these are templates that we have created based on a design that you've given us. But in the new version of SnapComms, we give you the ability to go create those templates, which we're now calling themes, yourselves. So you can upload a logo here, for example. It'll pick out colors. It'll pick out the primary colors from within that logo. It'll populate a suggested palette for you, and then you can go create your own custom template should you wish to. And it's fully customizable. You can have whatever colors you want, whatever fonts you like. You can have as many as you like of these themes per an organization. So you could have 1, 2, a dozen, 100. It doesn't really matter from our point of view. And a good use case here is where you may perhaps want to be, if you've got a project group that you want to use SnapComms to communicate updates for that particular project, but you don't necessarily wish to use the existing custom templates that you have, then of course you can very quickly come in here and go create a new theme, which you can then use within the organization. And Jane will go through the creation of that in the demonstration itself. So next area which I'd like to introduce to you is what we've called designer mode. And so previously with SnapComms, our ability to customize the layout of a particular message was somewhat limited based on the template design that had been chosen. Well, that kind of goes away with designer mode. You have full customization of a message, both the message window as well as the notification window. Should it be an alert? If it's a ticker, then obviously again you get the full customization of what that looks like and how it looks. Similarly with quiz, survey, and so on. We've got some smarts in there around how content is sized, so you don't really have to kind of guess around and look, if you've got scroll bars in there, how do I reduce and remove those scroll bars? It's very intuitive and easy to use. So it appears on screen in a much more visually appealing way. I talked a little bit earlier around drag and drop, so it's a much more simple solution in terms of being able to insert various items within the message, so text, imagery, color blocks, spaces, and so on. And you can really fine-tune the look and feel because we've given you very granular control of location of images and so on, as well as padding controls and so on. So you can really get to tune, shall we say, the layout of a particular message depending on what you're trying to achieve. I touched a little bit around the importance of being able to understand how a message is going to appear on particular devices, and increasingly we find that our customers are obviously using our mobile functionality as well. So being able to understand not only how a message is going to appear on a desktop, but also how that's going to appear across a mobile device or a tablet device is becoming increasingly important. So we've introduced what we call our multi-device preview. So you can look at what, for example, an alert window looks like on the desktop, whether you have that full screen, how that appears across the mobile devices, what the notification window looks like. So this is the read now, read later type thing. You've got all that functionality built into the product now. So it's much easier to be able to visualize how something is going to appear to an end user. And my last slide before I hand across to Jane is again, I touched on this in the introduction around content templates. So this is probably our most common use case, which is the ability to save and reuse a common message. So we used to have, we still do have, I should say, a feature called Quick Publish, but we're effectively transitioning that across into what we call content templates and making that available for everyone as standard. And it gives you the ability to, as I say, save and reuse common messages, as in the messaging format and layout and so on. But you're also able to preset the target audience, so it always goes to this particular group, it always goes to the entire audience or whatever that happens to be. You can preset the dates in which that message would be valid for, whether it's a day, a week, a month, and so on. And you can preset things like the methodology of that being delivered, whether that always goes to mobile, it goes to mobile and desktop, and so on and so forth. And again, we've tried to make that nice and easy so you can very quickly select those content templates from the dashboard. And again, you'll see as Jane goes through the demonstration how they appear. Of course, as with everything with SnapComms, it's important that we only allow access to these types of functionality to certain admins within the function. So we have granular access restrictions around content templates as well. So I hope that gives you a good overview of the type of changes that we're making. I'm just going to hand across to Jane. So just bear with me. I've just made Jane the presenter. So hopefully, Jane, you can you've got presentership and you can, yeah, I can see your screen.
Fantastic. Thank you, Phil. Thanks for that lovely introduction. As Phil said, I'm going to give you a demonstration today, an overview of these changes. So I have the SnapComms Content Manager open in front of you. We'll have a quick kind of overview of the entire new interface, and then I'm going to show you themes and branding that Phil talked about. We will create a new alert. We will convert that to a content template. Then we'll look at the new ticker and the new survey. If there is time, we will also look at a video alert and a registration alert, but I do have a lot to pack in, so we'll just see how we go. Just to stress that this is not a training session, rather it's a detailed demonstration, so there will be complimentary training available to you when you are ready to migrate to the new tools. So sit back and watch. This is not a learning session, it's a show and tell. Also, everything you see is still in development, so there may be one or two imperfections that we're still finalizing before we launch. Right, let's start with this dashboard. Most of you will be familiar with what's on screen. It is the new look, or what we call the Snappier Content Manager, which was introduced in July 2016. But for the sake of our on-premise customers who may still be on older versions of our software, let's take a quick guided tour of the dashboard. Excuse me, I'm just going to move something out of place there. Right, the dashboard shows your last 10 published messages. I have only got 3 messages published, and from here you have very easy access to several options such as editing, publishing, moving, as well as access at dashboard level to the success rate and access to all of the reports available for that item. Another really great addition to the new UI, in fact, I think this is my favorite, is the search tool, which is top right, which lets you find an item or a folder or a page by typing the name, or it shows you your recently viewed items. So incredibly handy and fast navigation around the Content Manager. And lastly, let's just have a quick look at the SnapComms app. The new SnapComms app that Phil was talking about. This new look was released in the beginning of 2017, so many of you will be very familiar with this, but just to show those of you on our older software what the new SnapComms app looks like visually. Right, as Phil mentioned, let's start with one of the first major changes, which was the introduction of themes. Now, this feature lets you set up one or more organization themes in terms of setting the logo, the fonts, and the colors, and then using that theme to style your SnapComms message window. So let's have a look at how that works. There's a new area in the management section of the Content Manager called Branding and Themes. I'm going to select the organization theme. And the first time you view this page, you'll see generic branding in place, which we are now going to replace. For this demonstration, I'm using a fictitious company called the Circle Company. So let's upload my company logo, change logo image. There is my corporate comms logo for my Circle Company. And notice that as soon as that logo is loaded, the dominant colors are picked up and used for the various elements, the buttons, the links, the heading colors. But you don't have to choose those colors. I actually don't want to use the green, so I'm going to change that to the same blue as the header. Now notice as I change this button color on the left, watch the buttons on the right. They will actually move to show you exactly what you have changed. So very, very intuitive in terms of what you're changing. Here I'm going to change heading 2, and there it moves on the right. So I'm happy with that, so I'm going to click. So just to point out, you can also obviously change your font types, your font sizes, as well as the colors. I'm happy with that, so let's go back to the themes list. And here you'll see that the thumbnail for our organization theme has updated to reflect the logo and the look we've set up. So that's absolutely fantastic for my corporate communications messages, but I'd like to create another theme now with a slightly different look to clearly identify messages from my IT department at the Circle company. So to do that, I clone the theme and I give it a name. And just to mention while I'm typing, there's no limit to how many themes you can set up here. Let's change the logo. I'm going to use my IT department style logo. And again, notice how the colors have updated immediately. However, I want to use this red for my primary color so that I have a red border. If you notice, the border color on the right preview is going to change. And I'm happy with that. So I'm going to apply the changes. And here we see we have two organization themes ready for use, the corporate one as well as the IT department theme. Right, that's a very quick overview of branding and themes. Obviously, the possibilities are endless here. You could set up an Easter theme for the upcoming Easter holidays, a Christmas theme. You could create a happy birthday theme if you were sending out birthday messages. We've really given you the power to be imaginative and to create really, really engaging on-screen display of your internal comms. So let's start creating content. Here you will notice the very first difference in that I have two desktop alert options. One is marked legacy. Now this is the version of the software that most of you are still on. You'll be familiar with the template selection. And if I call this legacy alert and create my content, you'll see the familiar interface with the tabs for navigating through the configurations along the top and that mandatory save button at the bottom of every page. Now I'm going to leave that there so that we can come back and compare it. And now we're going to have a look at the new desktop alert. So we go through create content, and this time we choose the new desktop alert. For this demonstration, we are going to imagine a scenario where the Circle company is going through an office move, and I'm going to create an alert announcing that office move. It's a corporate communications. It's from the corporate comms department, so I choose the that theme, and I'm going to call it new premises announcement. It's always tough typing in public. Right, create content. And let's pause here and have a look at this new designer interface that Phil briefly talked you through. So firstly, notice how the branding that we've just set up in that theme has styled the desktop alert. It has styled the border color, the logo, the head, the font types, the font colors, according to that theme. And all editing is inline and real time. So if I change that to anything else, notice in the bottom right hand corner, it is automatically saved, and I have an option to undo my changes. So you can say goodbye to that pesky save button. This is far more efficient for your content administrators. Now let's look at the right of the screen. Notice how the configuration options are down the right of the screen for setting the target audience, the date, the delivery options, etc. Instead of atop the cross, let's just flip back. There they are tabbed across the top. So that's a fundamental layout design in the new designer interface. Let's move to the top left of the screen. Here we have the preview capability, which we'll come back to later after I've edited this content. We have the designer mode, which we'll switch on shortly when we start editing. And we have some action buttons, including convert to content template, which is what I'll demonstrate once we've fully set up this alert we're sending out. Last thing to look at is at the top, we have the ability to switch the view to look at the notification window. This is a great new feature, having control of the design and content of that pop-up notification, which previously with the legacy products, you actually had to publish a test yourself to check how that would look on screen. But we'll look at that in more detail soon. So I'm going to switch back to the content and let's get started editing this alert. First, let's edit my headline, and I'm going to copy and paste to save time from my notepad. My headline is going to be announcing our new premises and the address. Now, I imagine in my mind the layout of this alert is going to be some text on the left, a lovely image of the building on the right, and a footer across the bottom with a sign-off from the corporate comms team. So I'm going to click on this placeholder and I'm going to delete it. And notice on the right-hand side of the screen how a toolbox has appeared with a selection of tools. You can add an image, a text box, or a color box. So like I said, I would like to add some text. And I would like that to only use 1/3 of the window width. So I'm going to use my column splitter to make it use 1/3. And then I'm going to paste my content in. And I'm going to format it using my predefined fonts that we set up in the theme. Apologies for that, it's a bit sticky. There we go. Okay, let's us get rid of that extra line space and add that image. Before I continue, I am referring to a link to view the location on Google Maps. So I'm going to use the link hyperlink tool, and I'm going to paste in my link to Google Maps in the hyperlink tool. And let's insert that. Notice how my link color has updated according to my theme. That is now blue. Right, time to add the image on the right. So I select my image tool. I pull it into place on the canvas. Upload my image. And extend that to use the other 2/3 of the width. And simply drag it until I'm happy with the size. Now, notice at the top, it's not lined up with the top of my text, so I can get very granular, as Phil was pointing out, with padding. I can simply go into my settings and I can add some padding to the top of the screen, top of the image, let's say. And that looks good enough for now. Also notice down the right, we do have a scroll bar indicating that the content is too long for the current height of the window. To correct that, you simply click Size to Content, and that will remove that scroll bar. However, I still need to add my footer bar, so I'm going to drag my window height and then pull in another text box. That's going to say corporate, communications team. Oh dear. Communications. And I'm going to remove the rest of the text. I'm going to right align it. Well, first let's set the background color. I'd like that to be use my default or my primary color, which is blue. That's done. Now I need to change the font color to white. So I'm going into this detail just to demonstrate how you can override the settings that were, configured in the theme. And let's right align that and get rid of our extra space. That's not wanting to cooperate, so I'll do it that way. Size to content to get rid of that white space. And one last thing is I still wanted to add a link to that image, so I can do that simply by pasting my Google Maps image, link onto the image. It's quick, it's easy, and it's fun. Everything you do is right on screen in front of you. So let's check that preview now. We're going to have a look at our preview function. And I want you to look at the animation as the message window appears on the screen. This is a slide down animation. Apologies, it might be a little bit jerky given the GoToWebinar software, but that's slid down on the screen. That's the default animation. There's several other options which I will show you as soon as we've finished doing this editing. I think that looks pretty great, but let's switch now to the notification window and see how that looks. Notification window. Remember that this is the small window that appears bottom right of the screen, notifying staff that a new message has arrived and giving them the option to read it. By default, this title is picked up from the name that you gave the alert. In this case, it is our new premises announcement. But let's close this preview and make this notification window more interesting. So back on the designer, I'm going to switch to my notification, and now we are editing that notification window. First of all, I would like to add some white space around my logo. So again, I have full control, and I simply add some pixel space around my logo. That looks a bit better. Now we're going to edit my actual copy. That's now going to say something far more intriguing to the user. We're moving, find out where to, format that. And I'm going to move it down because I'd actually like to add an image here too. So my toolbox of tools is also available for editing my notification window. And here I'm going to select that image. And I'm going to move it into place and size it. Notice how I can also control the layering so that it does not cover up any of the other elements. All sorts of flexibility there. Another great feature which was locked down before was the wording on these action buttons. You can now change that in context. So I'm going to say that, change that to be show me now, and leave the other one as read later. That looks great. Before I close that, the designer, I'm just going to show you the animations that I spoke about. As you can see, the default is slide down animation. I'm going to change that to spin and apply it. And if we do the preview again, let's look at how that spins. That's really quite engaging, and that spin animation does apply to the notification window too. Fantastic. So we're finished editing this alert. It's ready to go. So I'm going to close my designer, and now we're going to work quickly down the right-hand side of the screen to set the target audience. In this case, it's a message to all staff, but of course you still have access to target individuals or users and groups if you use our advanced targeting. So I'm going to apply that now. In terms of dates, a message like this, of course, would normally be scheduled for a specific time and date of the week. So you would use your scheduling there for starting and finishing. But for demonstration purposes, I'm going to just make this publish and appear immediately. In terms of delivery channels, the default is to deliver to SnapComms apps. Those are on PCs and mobile. And because we're delivering to mobile, it's always good to include a push notification so that the mobile user is also made aware of a new incoming message. And I'm going to update that notification text to match the PC notification text. Of course, there are also other channels that are available to send messages from SnapComms. We can send to SMS, we can send an email, and we could even use our a webhook to send to a Slack message or similar. So let's apply those changes. And lastly, the notification by default. That is a pop-up notification that we've just configured, but that could also be direct on screen, which gives removes the pop-up notification, and the full message appears immediately direct on screen with our other emergency and urgent options too. And of course, your occurrence frequency and interval, which used to be set up on the advanced tab. Right, and we're ready to publish. So orange button, bottom right, we publish. And within the poll time, we will see that great spinning animation. Here it comes. Intriguing. Show me now. Spins onto screen. And of course, I have the link to the address there or on the image. That's fantastic. I'm going to return to the dashboard. So as I pointed out right at the beginning, on the dashboard, we have immediate access to the success or readership rates of that message. That is showing, there's the message we just sent, new premises announcement, and it's showing 100% success. But let's take a deep dive, open the success report. You saw that I targeted 2 users. It has only reached 1 user. I do know that the other user is not currently online, so that message would not have reached their PC yet. But of the 1 user who it reached, that was me, we have 100% success. Let's return to our message. Now, I'm really happy with how this message looks. I really like the theme, that corporate branding theme, which has been applied to this layout that I've set up with the image on the right and the text on the left and the footer. So this is where I will convert it to what's called a content template, so that's easily available to the team for sending out other messages. So like I said, a content template is a combination of your theme, your preferred layout, and your pre-prepared content. It's an incredibly powerful feature, and it applies to all our new tools, not just the alert, and it replaces the quick publish feature. So how do we do that? I use the actions button. I say save as content template. I give it a name, which is going to be corporate communications alert template. Create it. Notice the gray shading that appears on the canvas. That indicates that we are now looking at a content template. This content template can be accessed from the folder. It is identifiable by this little wizard. So you can come back and edit it at any stage if you need to. Now, to use a content template, you go through the normal content creation process. Select create content. I'm going to sort my options. I'm going to filter by content templates. There it is. Select it. I get a preview on the right so that my comms team know what they're going to be editing. And all we have to do is change the title. And off we go for really easy editing. So everything's set up. All I would do is change out the image. Change out my text, change out my title, and I'm ready to go with all that beautiful pre-prepared formatting in place. So that's content templates. Fantastic. I have 10 more minutes of my demonstration, so I'm going to take you through the ticker, the new ticker interface, and then quickly the questionnaire tool. But let's start with the ticker. I'm going to create and publish a ticker with an update about this imminent office move. So I create content and I look for my new ticker. That's from the Corp Comms team. So I'm going to use their theme. You can see on the right how it applies to the ticker. And this is going to be a move update ticker. Now notice how the same designer canvas appears, but this time with a ticker placeholder ready for editing. Now, first glance, I'm not happy with how this logo is showing. It's too small for the ticker format. So just to demonstrate, you have full flexibility to go and change the logo to something more appropriate. And I can see that that needs more padding. So I'm going to change the padding so that it sits in the center. I could even customize my padding so that, it's only, you could have more white space on any of the sides. Full control there. So that looks great. And to edit my headline, it's as simple as clicking on that scrolling headline, getting hold of my text. This is going to be a reminder that workstations have to be packed. It opens for editing. Paste in my text. And once again, I have that editing toolbar, so I can make my text larger and put it in bold. I could change the colors. I could even put a small image in my ticker if I chose. I'm going to include a headline URL so that people can link to more information about where to find boxes for their move. And we're done. Of course, our other ticker features such as multiple headlines as well as categories are available. Very simple, add a headline and off you go. But we're done and we're ready to preview. Again, another great new feature of the new UI is being able to preview a ticker. Previously, there was no ticker preview. You actually had to publish a test ticker to yourself to see how that would display on screen. So that looks really great. We have finished editing, so let's quickly move down the right-hand configurations, target that again to all staff. I do have all the same ticker settings as previously, where you can control the speed of the ticker, as well as the scroll frequency, as well as the recurrence intervals and frequency. I'm going to leave those as they are though. I'm going to leave the dates and I'm going to publish. Let's just wait for that to appear, and then I'm actually going to return to the item and show you how, the ability to convert to content template is available for our ticker as well. So here comes the ticker. Click on it, of course, which opens another window with information. But let's go back here, close my ticker, return to the item. And all I do is actions, save as content template, and call this corporate comms ticker template, so that that logo that we set up specifically for the ticker can be reused really easily. So we are saving a specific layout for reuse. And there we go. And now if I create content and I filter by content templates, I can now see my ticker template and my alert template ready for use. But while we're here, let's quickly move on to the survey. This is probably for those of you who use any of our questionnaire tools, the quiz, the survey, the RSVP, or the registration tool, you'll be very aware of the fixed field, almost blind editing that you currently have to do, where you have to work through multiple tabs to get your questions set up. I'm going to set up a quick survey asking if people need help for the move. I'm going to call that move survey. Oh, I need a unique name, of course. Let's call it 2. And again, you'll be starting to get very used to this familiar interface. But this time we have a survey placeholder in place. Really simple. Add the title, move survey. Oh dear. And simply click to add your question. My question in this case is, do you need help packing your workstation? This is a yes or no answer, so I changed that to multiple choice, but we do have all these options. And my available responses will be yes, please, or no, thanks. I'm going to make this a mandatory question because I do want a response from everybody. I could add additional questions if I chose, simply by adding a question, or I could duplicate this question and edit it. Also, just to note, if I wanted to, I could switch on designer mode and I could put an image in there. I could put a video in there. So if you wanted to do a survey around what people thought of a new advertising campaign, you could run the video in the survey and ask questions directly there afterwards. So incredible flexibility. All I want to do to this one is add a line above my first question. So I use the separator. I'm going to make that a finer line and in my blue default color. Lastly, just to point out again that the submit button text is also editable. Closing my designer, having a quick look at the survey settings. I do not want to show question numbers because there's only one question, but I do want the default of limiting one response per user, and this also gives me an opportunity to point out the help text that becomes available as you roll over each of the features. So if you're not quite sure what result the feature will give you, we do have that help text on this new interface. Quickly set our targets. And I am going to publish. Of course, actually, I do have a few minutes, so let me show off and set another animation style. In this case, I'm going to use ta-da, which is an interesting name for what we call a shake. And of course, we also need to check our notification window. That's not very exciting, but for the purpose of this demonstration, you would type something like, do you need help with the move? And of course, you could make that answer now or anything else suitable. Closing the designer. Let's publish that. And wait for it to appear. While we wait for it, there we go. That's what we mean by the ta-da animation. It arrives and shakes on screen. Very hard to miss. And yes, please, I need help. Close. Let's return to the dashboard. I've got one last thing to show you. That is our calendar. We did refresh our calendar with the new UI. It's far more visual in terms of seeing what is published when, and you have one-click access to editing any of those tools, any of those published items. So I simply click on that and I'm back to the item for editing. So just wanted to give you guys a reminder of our calendar and to let you know that it has had a bit of a facelift. And with that, Phil, I'm going to pass back to you. Make
Thank
presenter,
you,
no problem. Yes. Over to you, Phil.
So let me just confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jane. Hopefully you'll all agree that we've made some pretty sizable changes to the SnapComms application, but I think we've done that on the basis of the feedback that we've received, and made things easier, made things more accessible, more flexible, and so on. So, I guess, well, onto the important stuff really. So when are we doing this? Well, I think, as I mentioned at the start of this webinar, this is a SnapComms managed migration plan. So we will manage you through this process of being able to transfer across to this new look and feel, and that process will start in April of this year. We will support what we're now calling the legacy tools through this transition period, and we've set a retirement or a sunset date of those tools of 31st of March 2019. So we've got just over a year, well, a year and a month or so to be able to make that transition. Now, there are some prerequisites. I did see on, just as Jane was going through the demonstration, some of the questions around what sort of app versions do we need and so on. So just as a high level, you do need, if you're on local or an on-premise solution, then it's server software version 18.3 or higher. You will need application version 17.12 or higher to be both provisioned and deployed to your user base. We will need to convert any custom templates that you've got into the new themes, and we will do that. Also, if you have any message history, so this is the theming or the branding of the SnapComms app, if any of you have that, and I know some of you do, if any of you have that branded to your particular design, then we will need to convert that, and that will then need to be redeployed into your organization. That's a pretty straightforward process, to be fair. But we are absolutely keen to ensure that everyone receives sufficient training around the product. So we will be running multiple training schedules through the month of April, and they will actually be focused in two areas. There'll be the IT, so what needs to happen from an IT perspective to facilitate this change. So I appreciate there will be some involvement, I should say, from the IT teams to make sure that this process is understood. We do need to likely roll out a new application and so on and so forth, but I hope with the time frame that we've set, then we should give sufficient time to be able to get that planned in. So our next steps are through the balance of February and March. We'll be really getting into that migration planning. There is some complexity depending on, from a customer point of view, depending on whether you have custom templates, custom message history, what version you're on, and so on and so forth. So we're effectively collating that information, and we will be in touch with you proactively to let you know when we're in a position to be able to migrate and what needs to happen and so on and so forth. We do pride ourselves on our kind of support base and the material that we make available to our customers, which is fabulous. But when you make a wholesale change to a user interface, for example, that necessitates a whole bunch of documentation changes around user guides, video tutorials, knowledge base, and so on. So we're working through that process now, and I suspect we will get not all of that completed before the migration in April, but we'll certainly have the primary collateral that people use within SnapComms to get that converted across through March. And then, excuse me, I think as I mentioned, so in April then we'll start the migration in earnest. So we'll schedule those IT sessions. So that's for your IT teams to come on and learn and understand what's required with regard to being able to upgrade to this new version of SnapComms. We'll also begin the training sessions for customers so they're able to understand how best to use that, and then we will start that migration across. As Jane alluded to, we will send you a copy of this recording, as well as a copy of the PowerPoint deck, so you've got those slides to hand. And we'll also have a FAQ area on our website, which will be a live document, so we'll continue to add to that. I know there are a number of questions that will come through, so that will be your area to look at for latest updates in relation to how SnapComms is progressing. So I did see some questions come through. I think there was a couple that we were unable to answer, and I'm not sure how many more we have, but with that, I'll ask Janice to come in and just talk through what some of the questions that were raised, and if there's other ones that still need answering. So Janice?
Yes, thank you. Several questions, most of which I was able to answer. I'll run through them now. There were a few I wasn't able to answer, but I'll pose them, Phil, to you and to Jane, and perhaps we can get answers to them now. Others we can certainly take away. The first question related to will we need to update our SnapComms client? I believe you addressed that. Yes, we are require the use of version 17.12. And I will throw out that we got a comment from one of our customers, bravo, bravo, bravo. So I think that's a thumbs up for these new changes. Want to confirm that we are recording the session. The deck and the recording will go out after this event. animation. So this was a question I wasn't completely sure about, so we're going to throw it to Phil, yourself, or Jane. Is it required to have the same animation for the pop-up notification and the message? For example, the ta-da effect. Does it have to apply both to the notification and the message window? Can we do one and not the other, for example?
Good, thank you, Jane.
At the moment, and at release, yes, it applies. The same animation applies to both. But you know, if we have more feedback like that, then we can certainly consider making that an option. I do see perhaps the use of that. You know, having one do one thing, one do another thing, or one animator, not the other. So it's a potential item to put on our roadmap, but currently, no, they use the same animation.
Thank you. The next question related to the ticker. I think it was just before you were about to demo the ticker, Jane, wanting to confirm that the ticker was still available, and of course it is with the same designer interface that we're launching for alerts. Let me see. Again, this was one I wasn't sure of. So again, Phil or Jane, I'll leave it to you to answer regarding reporting on messages that go both to the desktop and mobile. Will reporting indicate that the message went to both devices?
Hey, Jane, do you want me to do that one? Or?
Go for it, Phil.
Okay, Jane, just you're quite faint at the moment as well. I suspect you moved the microphone, but
thank you.
that's okay. Well, the short answer is it depends on how you set up your desktop and mobile users. So we have options here which we can perhaps talk through offline around whether a mobile user and a desktop user is linked within SnapComms. So, for example, if you send out a message and it goes to Philip Nunn and I'm linked as a mobile and a desktop user, then it will go to both of those devices, and you're able to see reporting on when it was received on either item. But a lot of companies will have their mobile user set up as a separate user completely. So they'll have a desktop user, so Philip Nunn desktop and Philip Nunn mobile, and of course within that you can then look at them and view them as separate entities, if you like. So I think that that's perhaps a question for a more detailed discussion. But I think the short answer in terms of what you're looking to achieve is whether it's reaching both platforms, and you can definitely see that within SnapComms.
Very good. Thank you, Phil. And this is an easy one, one I should know the answer to, but I don't, because I believe this is a change from the old version to the new version. And the question is a copy and paste available from Notepad, or does the new interface allow us to copy and paste from Word or an email?
Thanks, Janice. Definitely available from Word and email. And in the paste function, you can actually paste as text or paste as HTML. So you can choose to bring across formatting from other software if you choose. So definitely available.
Great. And here's another one I'll need your help with regarding ticker. The question is it possible to publish more than one ticker at the same time?
I'll answer that in two ways. Yes, you can have multiple tickers published, but they will only ever run one at a time. In other words, if there are two tickers published at the same time, the one that was published first will run its full course, and then it will slide to the left, and the next ticker will run its course. So absolutely, you can have more than one ticker published, but there will only ever be one on screen at a time.
Thank you. And cloud-based, the question was, when will the cloud be updated? And of course, the response is the new tools here, the new interfaces are officially launched on April 1st. What are the server requirements for the app server for an on-prem solution? Apparently this user is on a 2016 version. I believe, Phil, you answered that question during your presentation. The local server will require version 18, correct?
Our server software will be version 18, but I suspect this is the I think I might take that offline. I do believe that we have tested on 2016.
That's correct.
But I need to just, yeah, thank you, Jane.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. What's the deadline for upgrading? There was just a misunderstanding there, so I clarified that the end of support date for the existing tools is March 31st of 2019. Let's see. Another question related to the local service, which we will take offline. Question regarding reporting. Any improvements in reporting, especially for tickers and read or read criteria?
That's a great question. Yes, we are, with a new ticker, actually looking at the criteria for read. But just to talk very briefly, I know we're out of time, is that where we plan to go pretty soon this year is to be able to set the success criteria or the read criteria yourself. So if the criteria is that someone absolutely must click on the link, you can set that yourself. So that's where we're going with all of our reporting, where you determine upfront what the success criteria is, and then the reports report on that. So perhaps we can answer that in more detail in the training sessions, but yes, we are working on improving that.
Okay, there are a couple more questions, but we are at the top of the hour. Shall I continue, or shall we take those remaining few offline?
I think that, I guess I'm just looking at the questions now, so I think we can probably take those offline. Christy, I know you had a couple of questions around making sure that you're able to update in that particular time and potentially having a preview and so on of the new function. So I think what we might do is just take that one offline, if that's okay. What else can I answer very quickly? Updates to the mobile application somebody's asked for. So well, we continue to update our mobile application, and I think that's one that as part of this migration, we will there is no requirement to do anything on the mobile application here, but I think if you'll find through the balance of this year, then we will make sure that our mobile application is enhanced, shall we say. So that will be coming. I think that's probably as much as we can get through at this point in time. So I appreciate we're slightly overrun. For those questions that we didn't get through, then we do have them recorded, and we will come back to you either individually or collectively, depending on whether that was appropriate to the entire audience or not. I would like to very much thank you all for your time. I appreciate you're all busy people, so thank you for that, and I hope that you'll see the changes that we made as beneficial. So with that, I will end the webinar here, and thank you all for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.